Hello and welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's session will primarily focus on the MSc Health Services Management. Unfortunately, we've had some technical issues, but we'll carry on as is. So if you've got any questions that are specific to the MSc Advanced Nursing practice or Advanced Practice in Healthcare, if you pop them into the chat, we'll do our best between us to answer them. And if we can, we'll follow back up with you at the end of this session. But we're joined by some of our programme team for Health Services Management, so we'll do our best to answer any questions you have. And we are recording this session, so we'll be able to share this shortly afterwards with you to watch back in your own time. So Sue, would you like to kick off with introductions?
Hi everyone, so my name is Sue Campbell. I am the programme lead for the MSc in Health Services Management, and I've been running this programme since it started at the University of Glasgow, which I think must be about 6 or 7 years now. So thanks for joining us.
And Barry?
Hi, my name is Barry Moore. I'm the Programme Administrator for the MSc in Health Services Management, and delighted to work alongside you both.
Thank you. And Sue, could you give us an overview of the programme, please?
Yeah, so the Health Service Management, I think, appeals to a range of health professionals and others. So those who are interested in working specifically in management in health services throughout the world. We have a range of core modules, which makes up our 60 credits. And then students are able to choose another 60 credits of optional modules. So we do cover quite a range of topics, which I think is part of the appeal of the programme. Yeah.
Perfect. And what kind of background do students on the programme typically have?
So again, quite a range. So some people do come from the health professions. They may have studied pharmacy, they may be doctors, they might be nurses, physiotherapists, but others come from more of a sort of business management background as well. So may have done some health service management in hospitals or as part of their undergraduate. So yeah, really we do have quite a variety and from social sciences as well, people who are thinking about the sort of wider health issues, So we're definitely not just hospital focused and cover quite a range.
Right. And typically, where are the classes held? Are you on main campus?
Yes, we're on the main campus of University Avenue. We use lots of different buildings there, but it is very much an on-campus programme rather than an online programme. So we do expect students to be able to be in Glasgow for their classes.
Perfect. And just on that, I know there's no such thing as a typical week for an MSc student, but can you give us an idea of like the class time involved versus maybe what's involved out with those classes?
Yeah, so it does vary a little bit from course to course, but if you are, for example, studying a 20 credit module, we would expect that there would be at least 2 hours a week on campus for approximately 10 weeks. So 20 hours all in all in a semester. And then the rest of the time is made up by independent study. So that might include things like some pre-reading. It might include preparing for assessments. It might be, further reading around a topic. So I would say students are generally on campus most days of the week. Or maybe 4 out of 5 days of the week, but the actual contact time might only be 2 or 3 hours a day, depending on which particular courses that somebody takes.
Perfect. And then Barry, I assume like a student's timetable that will become clearer in August once registration opens.
Yeah, that's right. So as soon as students have registered in August, they will be able to access all the student systems, and as part of that will be their timetable, and that will show you then all of the classes for their different courses across the weeks up to December, and then in semester 2, where the optional courses are taken, because they're only chosen in late October, they will then become visible in January for semester 2 courses.
Perfect. And you kind of touched on another question there, which was the optional courses. So, do students need to join having an idea of what they want to choose, or do they get some time to sort of help them decide what ones they're going to do?
So as part of joining the course, they will be given the program handbook, and in there we'll list all the courses that we're running as part of this program. But students will have time. They are able to select them straight away, but we normally advise once they've started to book a one-to-one meeting with Sue Campbell as the program lead to discuss where they want to go to on their program, and then what options would best fit their essential career path that they wish to take. And then once that's known, Sue will be able to give them an indication of what courses better fit their career choice.
Perfect. And so the research project is such a big part of an MSc. Can you tell us a bit about the sort of process for that? So, in terms of how do you select a topic, a supervisor?
Yeah, so students are welcome to choose their own topic that relates to health service management. And then what happens usually around December, they will write a brief overview of what they're thinking, a sort of one-page outline, if you like. And based on that topic, they will then be allocated a supervisor by me. So the students don't need to find their own supervisor. And as I say, there's quite a lot of scope for them to choose their own topic, as long as it fits under that umbrella of health service management.
Perfect. And then in terms of other assessments, what do those look like?
Yeah, again, it depends on the course. What I would say is students coming from countries where predominantly their undergraduate was exams, it's a very different style of assessment at Glasgow. So we don't have any exams. There's no overall final exam where you pull together all the information. So each course will set its own assessments. Now, this might be writing a report, say 2,500 word report. It might include presenting, like doing a presentation on your topic. You might be asked to design a poster similar to what you would use at an academic conference. You may do some group work in some of the courses, so you'll be assigned a task and work together with other students. And part of the rationale behind the assessments is that we are aiming to get you ready for employment. So we're really, giving you the opportunity to experience things like doing presentations, or working in groups, which is, similar to working in teams, so that, when you're looking for further career options, and you've got those skills as well to add to your CV. So it does relate a lot to future employment for our students, which I think is one of the sort of values of what we do things. So yeah, no exams, no multiple choice exams, anything like that. Most of it will be what we call asynchronous. So you do it in your own time to meet a certain deadline.
Perfect. And that's maybe a nice point to add, Barry. Like, we've got a lot of support services available for our students, don't we? So I think academic writing, if there's anything you want to brush up on. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about that?
Yes, so yeah, we do have student learning development department. So if any student, home or international, needs assistance with their academic writing, then they can approach them, seek assistance. So we obviously can't write the assignment for you, but we can bring you up to a level with your academic writing that you are writing professionally for your assessments. In addition, we have wider university departments. If anyone needs extra time on their assignments and they have a personal condition, which they need to register with disability services. Then they are given flexibility in their deadlines to submit their assignments. So there's a whole wealth of support services available at the university to support students.
Perfect. And I suppose it's just a case of if you think you need some assistance, just ask for it, because a lot of the time there is a support service for that. And I think with the disability service, get in touch as early as you can, isn't it, to kind of get that all set up?
That is correct. Yes, the earliest that student contacts us, we can put extra provisions in place for them.
Perfect. And we've kind of touched on it there, Sue, but in terms of careers, what kind of jobs do you see students going on to after the MSc?
Yeah, so some students will return to their current job and look for promotion within that system. Some students have gone into sort of policy making, so how to influence health policy. Other students have gone into sort of hospital administration type roles. There are some students who are international who have taken up jobs in our National Health Service in the UK. There's so many to mention, really quite a broad range of different options. One of the things that master's level study gives you is that ability to be kind of critical thinkers and, adaptable and sort of long-term learners, if you like, that there's quite a lot of options for being for future career relating to health service management.
Yeah. I always think it's really interesting as well, because all the transferable skills you get, and I suppose it depends somewhat on maybe your background, what you're then going to go to after your master's as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's often what recruitment, people who are recruiting will look at your undergraduate qualification and then, link and your work experience and link that with your master's level. Yeah.
Something you didn't mention, which it might not be a thing, but is PhD a common sort of step after the MSc?
I haven't. Not many students have gone on to do their PhD. It is a possibility, but a lot of them, I think, have gone back to more practitioner type roles or management roles. So there is. It's always an option if you do well in your masters, but not necessarily common, I think, in the management side. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because a lot of you hear a lot of the other master's students, a lot of them joining for different programs. Obviously, that is quite a common thing. In terms of the lesson material, is that available to students before classes to give them a sort of chance to prep for the classes?
Yes, so we use a system called Moodle, which is our sort of learning management system, and teaching staff will upload their session material in advance of the session so that there is time for students to familiarise themselves with some of the maybe key concepts, some of the language of what's in the session, so that they feel prepared and can get the most out of the teaching. We moved away some years ago to sort of kind of lecturing. So a lot of the contact time we have with students is working through views and concepts and thinking about applying them. So much more active learning and practical sessions. So yeah, another good question.
And then I think one of our final questions that we've got here, so if anybody does have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, please. Is there anything students can do to prepare themselves for starting their MSc?
I think one of the best things is really to get themselves organised enough to be here on time, so that when you arrive, you arrive in good time. The week prior to the actual teaching starting, the formal teaching starting, we do run induction sessions, and I think the important thing is that students are here for them. So Barry and I meet all the students and we talk about our specific programme, and at the same time the wider university, what we call MVLS, Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences College, they also have induction sessions. So that arriving on time, getting your, accommodation sorted, getting organised, I think is one of the best things you can do. We don't expect students to have done any pre-reading. Obviously, if someone's keen and they want to and they've got the time, then, they're welcome to email me and I can make some suggestions. But there's no expectation that you will have done anything like that before starting. So we start everybody off at the same point, if you like. And yeah, I just emphasize that the induction sessions are really important and just being settled and ready to start. It is a big campus. It is difficult to find your way around. There's lots of different buildings. So this, just having that familiarity and being ready on, when formal teaching starts is the best thing you can do, I think, to help yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And if for any reason you're not going to be here for those sessions, do get in touch as early as you can, just to, if there's anything that can be sort of shared in advance. Barry, you must speak to students all the time. Have you got any advice for them in addition to what Sue's shared?
Just to say we're always here for you. There's no such thing as a silly question. So if it's something that you're worried about, do always reach out to myself and Sue. And if we don't know the answer, then we certainly know how to signpost you to the relevant departments at the university. But no, we're always approachable.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. I often contact the teams and asking them for things, and if they don't have the answer, they always find the answer for you. And a lot of the time, there's someone else has the same question as well, isn't there? That's actually all the questions that we've had submitted, and I don't see anything through the chat. Just in the last couple of minutes, is there anything that we've not touched on that you'd like to add, or are we quite happy? I can't think of anything we've not touched on. Perfect. What I will say is if you do think of any questions, it's not your last time to ask during this session. We've got our contact email address on the programme web pages, so do get in touch with us if you have anything that you need to find out, and we'll do our best to point you in the right direction. But thanks very much to our panel for taking time out of your day. I know how busy you all are. And thanks very much to those watching. Hopefully we'll see you all come September time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Naomi. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.